All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Into the Depths of Discovery, the ribbon-cutting event celebrating the completion of excavation for the Long Baseline Neutrino Facility. I'm Mike Headley. I'm the Executive Director with the South Dakota Science and Technology Authority. On behalf of my colleague, Fermi Lab Director Leah Merminga, here to my right, we're glad to welcome you here to the 4850 level of the Sanford Underground Research Facility located in Leeds, South Dakota. SURF is the deepest underground laboratory in the United States and one of the deepest in the world. I want to thank everyone who made the trek underground with us today for the ceremony, and thank everyone who is watching via the internet up on the surface. So we're here today, nearly a mile underground, to celebrate the completion of the excavation of over 800,000 tons of rock to construct 3 large caverns, of which we're in one of them, called the North Cavern, and you can see it behind me. And so to construct 3 large caverns to house the Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment, or DUNE. And so DUNE will be truly the largest mega science project ever constructed on US soil. Of course, none of this would be possible without the strong partnerships we share with Fermi Lab, the US Department of Energy, and we also have a number of additional partners who play a key role in the project's success. The South Dakota Governor's Office, our congressional delegation, our state legislators, the City of Leeds, members of the DUNE International Collaboration, all of which have members here today to show their support for the project and demonstration of the strong partnership that we share. I'd also like to thank, and I think we owe a round of applause for the people from all the different contractors and from Fermi Lab and SDSDA. So before you start clapping, so I'd like to recognize Tyson Mining, who was the lead contractor for doing the actual excavation that you're looking at today. Kiewit Alberici Joint Venture, who was in a construction management role. My Fermi Lab colleagues who managed that effort, and the South Dakota Science and Tech Authority staff who did a lot of the logistics to get all the equipment and the materials underground that were needed to be able to make this thing a success. So let's give a big round of applause to the folks who did the work. The echo is pretty amazing, isn't it? So this event signifies the transition from the excavation phase into the facility outfitting or the infrastructure installation phase. And so as we celebrate this major milestone, I'd like to take just a moment and mention some of the people who played a key role in SURF even getting to this point of being able to transition from a 130-year-old, deepest gold mine in the Western Hemisphere to what we see today and what it's going to be in the future. And so I'd like to take a moment just to recognize some of the people who played a key role. And first, I want to thank those who work for Homestake. I'm sure we have a few Homestake person or two who's underground here with us today. But thank you to the Homestake staff for your generations of hard work and the grit that made this place possible. Without the work that you did over that 130 years, we would not be here today. Second, would like to thank the giants whose shoulders we're standing on. Most notably, Nobel laureate Dr. Ray Davis and his cohort, Dr. John Bacall, and all those who led this early study of neutrinos here at Homestake starting back in the 1960s. We appreciate their perseverance that led to breakthroughs, even though for a period of time, those who know the story know that their work was doubted for a number of years until we actually figured out the solar neutrino problem. And so without their work, we would not be here today either. And third, I'd like to thank the visionaries in the physics community, people like Dr. Kevin Lesko, and federal and state government leaders that he worked with, most notably then Governor, now Senator Mike Rounds, his brother Jamie Rounds, who worked with us on a lot of the risk management issues, and also our state legislature, who invested a notable amount of money in studying neutrinos and dark matter. And so that's hard enough to try and sell now that we have something, if you can imagine back in the day when it was even a bigger dream than it is today. And so thank you to them. I'd also like to thank Barrett Gold Corporation for the donation of the property for us to be able to turn this into a world-class lab. And finally, I'd like to thank Philanthropist T. Denny Sanford. Denny, thanks for making the trek to come be with us here today. We appreciate it. So Danny, thank you for your generosity and your shared vision with Senator Rounds to develop a place where we could do world-class science here in South Dakota and also inspire the next generation and provide learning opportunities that are truly unique to anywhere in the world. And so let's take a moment and thank all those folks for the contributions they've made over the years. So all these people, the miners, the visionaries, the civic leaders, and the philanthropists have made our future possible. And looking at this, I'm going to say our future is pretty darn bright. And if we look at DUNE after it's installed, it's going to be operating for at least 20 years into the future, more than likely longer than that. And South Dakota, and I know our Fermi Lab colleagues are here to welcome the DUNE International Collaboration to build and make DUNE a reality. In fulfillment of the vision of all those who got us here today, I think about the kids who are in school today and their process to move into their careers. And the work that's happening here is providing opportunities, not only for kids here in South Dakota, but really all over the country and all over the world, for them to come here, be technicians, engineers, scientists, to be able to advance this world-leading research. So that's pretty amazing. Before I sit down and turn it over to Leah, I would like to recognize the SDSTA and the Fermi Lab staff who put all of this together. I was in a number of the meetings with them, and I can vouch it was a hell of a lot of work. So let's go ahead and recognize those folks for all their work and planning today. And so now I'd like to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Fermi Lab Director Leah Mermenga, for her comments and to introduce our first speakers.
Thank you very much, Mike. So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Fermi Lab, it is my sincere honor to welcome you all to the Sanford Underground Research Facility to celebrate the completed caverns for DUNE, the Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment. It is truly an engineering marvel, as we can see, and it is an achievement many, many years in the making. One could even say it is 94 years in the making. It was 1930 when Wolfgang Pauli first hypothesized the existence of the particles that we today know as neutrinos. We saw the first experimental evidence of neutrinos in 1956. And right here in 1965, deep underground in the Homestake gold mine, chemist Ray Davis started his own solar neutrino detection experiment. The results from this experiment earned him the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2002. Now, many decades later, we know much more about the neutrino, and yet at the same time, we don't know nearly enough. So physicists from around the world have come together to seek answers. We will do this with DUNE, initially with 2 and ultimately with 4 immense detectors, contained cryostats filled with 70 kilotons of liquid argon right here, 1 mile underground. We will send neutrinos 1,300 kilometers through the Earth from our laboratory in Batavia, Illinois, here to Lead, South Dakota, to study the behavior and further our understanding of the universe. Are these elusive particles the reason the universe is made of matter? What can they tell us about neutron stars or black holes? Could they be the key to help us realize Einstein's dream of the unification of the four forces? DUNE will bring us closer to answering these questions. Today is an important milestone as we celebrate the successful excavation of 820,000 tons of rock to create caverns for the DUNE fire detectors and supporting infrastructure. And we're particularly proud to emphasize that the cavern excavation happened safely. Our subcontractor completed over 1 million worker hours without a lost time incident, a significant achievement given the difficult, perhaps unprecedented nature of this underground excavation. Another notable milestone achievement, DUNE is a truly international effort. DUNE collaborators come from more than 200 institutions in over 35 countries, and the DUNE detectors will be built with contributions from many of those countries. Specifically, I'd like to recognize some of the international partners who traveled from far away today to be here with us and celebrate. This includes Brazil and CERN, the European Physics Laboratory, each of whom will provide invaluable instrumentation, equipment, and most importantly, world-leading technical expertise. We are especially honored that DUNE is the first major physics experiment that CERN is investing in outside of Europe. This project would not be possible without the participation of our international partners. Physics is truly an international, a global endeavor, and I am grateful to all of you who share this belief and priority. And as we go into the depths of discovery, I urge you to think about how we're stepping into caverns that are empty of rock but brimming with potential. The data we will collect in these caverns has the potential to change physics forever. I'd like to thank the DOE leadership, the Office of Science, High Energy Physics, and our site office, as well as our senators, Senator Rounds, who we are excited to have here today, as well as Senators Thune from South Dakota and our Illinois Senators Durbin and Duckworth, who are not able to attend today. And we want to thank all the congressional delegations of Illinois and South Dakota, SDSTA, the SURF Lab, and Mike Hadley for his support and partnership, and the SURF and Fermi Lab teams who work together tirelessly to organize this event. And also the LBNF and DUNE project and our collaborators, and the high energy physics community at large from around the world who encouraged us to build this unprecedented facility with their P5 reports. So thank you all very much. It is now my honor to invite Mr. Christopher Davis, Chief of Staff of DOE Secretary Jennifer Granholm, to give his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with us to celebrate. I've never been so excited to be underground. From our 200 plus national and international partner organizations in the research community to our congressional support and state support, the life of this facility would not be possible without all of your contributions. Federal investment from this administration has also played a key role in keeping this project online. $125 million in funds from the the Inflation Reduction Act as part of the first tranche of funding was delivered from the Office of Science after IRA was passed 2 years ago this week.
that has allowed this project to stay on track and benefit the community over that time. Our 17 national labs at the DOE, including Fermi Lab, have long been at the forefront of scientific breakthroughs, including in the original experiment that captured neutrinos for the first time here in the Homestake mine in 1965. It's common knowledge within the federal government that the DOE national laboratories are the crown jewels of the federal R&D establishment. It feels particularly on the nose to say that while in a cavern like this with you all. This project is a measure of our ambition as a nation. We will build on the largest scale in order to understand the very smallest scale. We will move hundreds of tons of the most concrete material in order to understand something so ephemeral we know it as a ghost particle. We have no doubt that the quality of the scientists that this project will bring to the Black Hills will produce quality science here and for decades. The collaborative, innovative spirit of the Department of Energy continues to prove that there is no task that cannot be faced when all of the nation is behind it. It will also continue to generate economic growth and opportunity for those in this community, including the 10% of current workforce who were former Homestake Mine employees. As Secretary Granholm has said, scientific brilliance feeds entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship creates jobs, jobs breathe life into America's homeland, heartland. This project is a perfect example of that commitment, and I'm proud to turn it over to my colleague, the Principal Deputy Undersecretary for Science and Innovation, Derek Passarelli.
Thank you, Christopher. Okay, I know we're all dying to, I just got to do this. Let me just try it real quick. Hello! That is so cool. You know, I mean, we are a mile underground. I mean, have you ever thought about it? Like when you were a kid growing up and you were trying to dig your way to China, do you remember that? And here we are, and we're in this facility, and it's just absolutely incredible. I look at this and I think this is the most exciting scientific project that's going right now on and across the United States, let's just say it, the world, and with our international partners. I am just so excited to be here. Mr. Sanford, this is just an honor to have you here. So thank you for being here today and for your commitment over 20 years to make this happen. Senator Rounds, Congressman Johnson, Lieutenant Governor Roden. We're just excited to be here. And I have to tell you, the international community, having Brazil, Italy, the involvement of CERN, all the countries across the world, for the people that are online right now, that you're seeing this virtually, you can't even really explain this. When you think about the equipment that has to come down here, the folks that had to take it apart, some of the largest mining equipment that's ever been invented, and you look at what it took to accomplish this, you know, this rivals Mount Rushmore. This rivals the Golden Gate Bridge. If you look at the Hoover Dam, what is going on underground here, the engineering that had to go into it, the South Dakota Science and Technology Authority, all the different things that had to happen here, you can't help but be excited. And, you know, I want to do a special shout out to Fermi Lab. I mean, when you think of Fermi Lab's in the textbooks. I mean, you know, if you talk about particle physics, you're talking about Fermi Lab. You're talking about 3 elementary particles that are being made at the lab itself, the top quark, the bottom quark, and the tau neutrino. That all came out of Fermi Lab. And you look at that and what all of that leads to today. And the children, you know, we were in the community center earlier on today, and I think of the kids that are going to go through that center, the kids that are going to be working at that facility 20, 30 years from now, and you look at the science that's going to advance and how we try to answer those basic questions, like who are we? What are we? Where did we come from? You know, what are the building blocks of the universe? And the fact that we can start to understand that, you know, talking to friends and talking to family and saying, I want you to understand what a big deal this is when we talk about the building blocks of the universe and, you know, what is matter comprised of? And, you know, dark matter sounds so ominous, right? It's dark matter, but now we're shedding light on that dark matter to understand exactly how it works and the properties. I got to do a big shout out to the folks, the contractors, the folks that worked on this. This is a huge deal. No lost time incident occurred in something that is so grandiose as this project. The dedication to safety, you know, at the Department of Energy, we always talk about safety first, people first. You got to walk the talk, though. You got to make sure that you are doing things properly. And this is clearly an example of that. So I'm not going to repeat what other folks said. Just want to let you know the Department of Energy is so proud to be a sponsor of this project and want to assure you that we're going to be a continuous partner in seeing this thing become a reality. Thank you all very much. And with that, I believe I am passing it on to Harriet, Dr. Harriet Kung. Oh, one of my favorite people.
Good afternoon. What an honor and pleasure for me to be here. Let me start by echoing all the enthusiasm and excitement my previous speakers have expressed. I also want to congratulate the whole LBNF DUNE for such an amazing and significant milestone that we're celebrating today. As the acting director for DOE's Office of Science, I'm proud to be the steward of the nation's largest supporter of basic research in physical sciences. Our mission is to deliver scientific discoveries and major tools to transform our understanding of the universe, and also at the same time advance the nation's energy, economic, and national security. And in service of that mission, we steward 10 national laboratories, including the Fermi Lab, but also 28 scientific user facilities. Think about it. Our labs and our user facilities are really the perfect examples of what Office of Science does best. We actually steward big science projects. We deliver big solutions, all in service of the nations. And all of these cannot be done without our steward of the precious federal resources, also the federal sponsored expertise. The reason we dream big, because the science demands it. We also are very mindful that the very precious investment that taxpayers supported have to be able to benefit the scientific research community writ large, but also the general public. And that also includes our partners and stakeholders at the great state of South Dakota. So many of you already know that the Sanford Underground Research Facility holds some of the most incredible physics experiments. But when done, the LBNF DUNE experiment will be the world's premier facility for us to transform and revolutionize our understanding of the universe. It will further push the field of particle physics to the boundaries from the onset. It will also project the possibility for serve to further support future generations of experiments related to dark matter. Of course, building the world's flagship neutrino facility has been nothing short of a Herculean task. So far, requiring the removal of almost 800,000 tons of rocks from a cavern a mile down. We also plan to build one of the world's most sensitive detectors to detect these ubiquitous but also elusive, poorly understood particle neutrinos. And these neutrino particles were supposed to travel over 800 miles from our Fermi Lab campus. It's never an easy feat, especially delivering the ambition of this world-leading project has not been easy so far. Our team has to work to resolve many, many unexpected engineering challenges, as well as not to mention also the pandemic that we had to overcome. So I want to take this moment to thank the Office of Science employees, both at headquarters, but also at the Fermi Lab site office, also our Fermi Lab partners and STA and SURF, and from also our international partners for all the work that have done so far, allowing us to get to this point. Looking forward, we hope that you will continue your efforts to keep your focus, you keep your dedication, also determination to continue executing this project safely, efficiently, to turn this form of mine into a world-class scientific facility. I cannot wait to see what the future will bring. Congratulations again. Thank you very much. With that, let me turn to Gina, Dr. Gina Remika, who's the owner of the LBNF DUNE project, also the AD for the high energy physics program in the Office of Science. Over to you, Gina.
Hi, and I don't want to repeat all the thanks that everyone's already said, but I ditto them. But on behalf of the Department of Energy, High Energy Physics, I would like to follow up on the contribution of many partners to this awesome project. The HEP partnership with CERN is ever growing, from the groundbreaking discoveries at the Large Hadron Collider to the major investment that CERN is making here in the US for this exciting project. Our partners in Brazil and Switzerland are making significant contributions to the cryogenic systems, which will be installed in that cavern that we just saw. Partners in the UK, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and the Czech Republic are delivering major detector systems, which will fill these caverns that'll be behind us with the best neutrino detector in the world. This project has been many years in the making, and it would not be possible without the continued strong support that we have received from Congress, and we thank them for that. But I particularly want to thank Senator Rounds, whose support dates back to the early days of this project planning while he was the governor here in South Dakota. Then Governor Rounds came to numerous events attended by starry-eyed experimenters, of which I was one of them. He had a vision of doing this world-class science and sharing that excitement through education and outreach. And I think everyone sees how that is turning out and the progress that's being made. I am thrilled that we are recognizing this exciting milestone for the vision achieved here today. We do have a long way to go, but the results will be amazing. And we in the Department of Energy will stand with all of Fermi Lab and the Sanford Lab and all the people that are working so hard on this. So we do look forward to the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gina. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce the Lieutenant Governor of South Dakota, Lieutenant Governor Larry Roden.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be here. It's hard to believe we're a mile underground to celebrate the completion of this crucial facility. I've heard it said a number of times. I've been reminded by a certain former governor that neutrinos are important. And I'm here to congratulate you on behalf of Governor Noem and the people of South Dakota. The truth is that SURF is America's underground lab. The lab right here makes South Dakota a global leader in the field of underground science. But make no mistake, other countries are trying to keep up, and some of those nations are not friendly toward us. They hate America, like China and Russia. And if we keep innovating and growing here, we'll be able to maintain our advantage in technology. We will benefit our national defense and also keep on the cutting edge of energy, medicine, quantum computing, and much, much more. We know how important this lab is to our state's economy. Today's expansion will bring $2 billion in economic impact to our state and lead to a projected 1,200 jobs. You folks that work with this kind of businesses know that large and small businesses across the state will benefit. And when you benefit, they benefit. And when they benefit, the state of South Dakota continues to see its incredible growth. And you're also helping train and prepare South Dakota for the future jobs in this state. Your training programs are reaching 16,000 kids and 400 teachers in the state. Technology really is South Dakota's next big industry. We have the continued advantage of SURF on the western side of the state, and we have the growth in cybersecurity sector on the eastern part of the state. Technology and research have been the fastest growing sector in South Dakota's economy for the past several years. But as Governor Noem likes to say, South Dakotans never settle for good enough. And so before I conclude, a word This work that you do here wouldn't have been possible without some crucial partners. I know some of them have been named already. Partnerships like Mad Labs in Dakota State, as well as our new Center for Quantum Information Science and Technology. Governor Nome and the legislature supported that initiative in the past session. That's how we do things in South Dakota. We work together with our neighbors to get things done. Whether that's a barn raising or getting a revolutionary advancement in neutrino research underground. And so again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you've done for this lab and the future work. And thank you for allowing me to be here to share a few thoughts with you. So thank you very much. And I also have the privilege of introducing the next speaker. And so I wanted to take a little bit of a personal privilege. And I know he's already got a little attention, and so I hate to give him any more. But really, today is kind of special for me because I reflect back on 24 years. I was a freshman legislator in 2001. Then Governor Janklow was doing battle with Homestake Mine about the future of that ground and the conversations that he was having. And then Senator Rounds took the helm as governor. And I thought at the time, even as a second-term legislator, it was a good cop, bad cop thing. And Rounds showed up after Janklow kind of pounding on Homestake, and he was the right guy for the job to bring them along. And a few years later, I'm majority leader in the House in 2006 when we're funding the lab. And I have to give credit where credit's due. And it squarely belongs with Governor Rounds, who took that initiative. And his excitement about it was infectious. And I remember lining up meetings with fellow legislators and dinners so he could convey his excitement to the legislators, and raising the money, the initial 25 million or whatever it was for the lab, and the fight that I had in my caucus. And we were talking about that earlier. So all that to say is what an incredible opportunity to stand here and see 24 years later what that work and endeavor has brought us to. So congratulations again to all of you. Our next speaker, the Honorable Senator Mike Rounds.
Okay. Normally, after John Thune gets done talking, I got to bring this thing way down again. Now, when Larry gets done talking, I bring it way down again. First, let me just begin by thanking all of you for being here today. And to begin with, let me just share, I've appreciated the very kind comments. This project, as my brother Jamie and I were discussing on the way out here today, this project would never be where it's at today if it would not have been for the contributions of well over 1,000 people. Literally a lot of people that have made decisions to help, decisions about the process to move forward, the technical decisions, the concepts behind it. But literally there have been 1,000 people that have been a part of this team and that will continue to be a part of this team. And I could not go on without recognizing also Denny Sanford. Denny, he is truly a philanthropist. Denny is one of these guys who has changed the landscape in South Dakota, and in many ways for kids around the world, as his goal of producing this project of harmony where kids can learn about each other very early in life. I want to say this, there is no way that this would not have gone forward without Denny Sanford and his agreement to voluntarily provide us with literally $70 million way back when this was a hole in the ground, okay? And that was all it was. But at the same time, and today I shared with Denny earlier, I'm going to take a few minutes of personal privilege because there's another guy in here who has been in it since day one, who's retiring, and that's Kevin Lesko. Many of you know Dr. Lesko, UCLA Berkeley. He's also that long-haired guy from over there that was different than the rest of us from South Dakota were. But he is one of the first guys I knew who could talk to politicians. He could talk to the folks technically about the engineering design, and he could talk to other scientists. He was a facilitator. He was one of the guys in the middle of it that made things happen. The closure that would have happened here years ago may very well have happened on multiple occasions if it would not have been for what Dr. Kevin Lesko provided in terms of regrouping people and bringing them back together again. I first met Dr. Lesko in 2004. I was the newly elected governor of the state of South Dakota. And despite some complications with Barrick, we were confident that we could work out the logistics to transfer ownership of the mine to the state. At the same time, Dr. Lesko was working on his own experiments at Snow Lab in Canada, but he could see the bigger long-term pictures of what Homestake could provide us. Despite seemingly insurmountable obstacles, Dr. Lesko believed there was a chance to establish a national laboratory right here in South Dakota, and that it would be the best spot for one to survive long-term. He was right. I'm not going to go on and give the entire prepared remarks here, but I will say this. Today he's retiring, but we're going to keep him busy in this whole process, because what this represents for young people long-term is an opportunity to come here to literally rub shoulders with the brightest people in the world. And it has brought together support from not just a lot of people in South Dakota and the folks who are responsible for financing things in South Dakota, philanthropists like Denny Sanford, but it's also brought about people that make decisions at the national level about the right things to do in terms of long-term science. And Larry is right. Neutrinos are very, very important. Let me finish with this. There will be a time in the future, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, I'm speaking to a group of teachers in the eastern part of the state about what it means to have good teachers. And I got to thinking about it, and part of my message there is I'll never forget my first grade teacher, Sister Jeremy, because she taught us you had to work at it, but you had to be interesting, and you had to be a teacher who could make things fun. But I also remember a coach, Coach Shields, who made it simple to say, this is the project moving forward. This is what I want you to do. This is the way to make it work. Give directions and then let people see successes. Very, very important. A guy by the name of Jack Robinson, who taught me aeronautics, who told me there were certain things you had to do and do them correctly every single time. And that science was that way, and that there were facts. And then I met Dr. Lesko, and I'm going to talk about him as well. And the reason why I'm going to talk about Dr. Lesko is because he is a scientist who is also a teacher. And a teacher who can blend that message of research, but also sharing it with young minds to make it exciting again, to want to go in and to learn more and to ask the questions that even though at a third grade level, when a governor says, why is it that all the planets that go around the sun are on the same plane? I don't get it. Why don't they go in different directions? And over a glass of wine, he would say, well, I guess I can explain it in the following way. And he would do it at a third grade level that I could understand. That type of teaching is something special that occurs when you have a laboratory like this, when young people can come and be excited about it. This is about the next generation and about what they're going to learn about science in a very, very special way. It would not have happened without the vision of people before us, the hard work that's been put on here right now, but also those folks who are facilitators to bring everybody else together. And Dr. Lesko, you are one of those people. I'm proud to call you my friend. Thank you. Now, and speaking of friends, there are some folks that you get to meet literally when they are extremely young, maybe just out of diapers, but grew up in your own community and have grown up part of the economic development team that we had when he was just out of college and picking up one of his first jobs in economic development in South Dakota, and who is one of those bright people that always looks at the optimistic side. He is one of the guys that helps us bring the dollars back in for Homestake and for this entire project. He is a very bright guy who could be doing some of the research himself, but he decided to go into public policy as well. Our Congressman, Dusty Johnson.
So on the van ride up here, Larry and Mike and I were talking about the good old days. Some of the stories you've already heard from more than 20 years ago. And they were all so excited. I mean, we were talking about the nature of physics. We were talking about the legislative procedure necessary to get some of these things done. It reminded me of folks sitting around telling stories about that fishing trip or that hunting trip or that great high school athletic accomplishment. So I just want to say to the leaders of every other state out there, just so you know, South Dakota's politicians are nerdier than your politicians. Be forewarned. So I'm reminded, since we're talking about Dr. Lesko, I'm reminded of being working for Mike more than 20 years ago in a side room at the Ramkota where Governor Rounds and Dr. Lesko had convened some policy leaders to try to have these conversations about the nature of our universe. And I was sitting next to a physicist, I don't remember who, but at some point I think he wanted to gauge my reaction to the presentation that Mike and Kevin were giving. And he said, "What do you think?" And I swallowed hard and I had to admit, I said, I don't think I really understand how this all fits together. And he looked at me and I was sure he was disappointed in me. And then I think he was gathering himself. I was convinced he was going to give a statement to me to put it all into context, to line it all up so that even I could understand it. And he said, "Dusty, none of us understand how this all fits together." And that's what makes this special. So often when people ask questions, they are asking questions that the answers exist. They may not know them, but they exist. I spent the last 3 days in Custer State Park with my sons. When they ask me, how many elk are in Custer State Park? I don't know, but that answer exists. Dad, when they vaccinate the bison, what are they vaccinating them for? That answer exists, but I don't know it. But we don't know the answers to these questions. And that's why this is a unifying enterprise. That's why the state legislators come together to do this on a bipartisan basis. That's why the House has more than $200 million for this project in the budget. That's why the Senate has more than $200 million for this project in the budget. Because these are the types of endeavors that bring our country together in a time where seemingly everything else divides us. So this is all I really know. Because of this investment, because of this hard work, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we will know more about neutrinos. We will know more about particle physics. We will know more about the nature of our universe, and we'll have a better understanding of the questions that no one has the answer to. That is worth celebrating. Thanks.
It is now my pleasure to invite John Mester, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Universities Research Association, and he's speaking on behalf of FRA LLC.
Thank you, Leah, and thanks to everyone here. So as Leah says, I'm president of URA, Universities Research Association, which was the founding M&O contractor for Fermi Lab. We recently, meaning in the last 20 years, joined with University of Chicago to form the Fermi Research Alliance, and we manage and operate the lab on behalf of the DOE and work very closely with them. So it's my pleasure to represent FRA here today. Now, I think it's very important to take some time to celebrate achievements along the way, even though our focus here is looking forward. Our focus here is to complete LBNF DUNE and start taking data, because that's what we're really excited about. But while we look forward, it's very important to take stock at what's been accomplished so far. And this is a perfect time to do this, because these massive caverns have just been completed in terms of their excavation. And now engineers and scientists can come down here, a mile deep, and start building the detectors for the Fermi Lab LBNF DUNE International Experiment. This is a flagship experiment that will enable discoveries to be made by people. So we talk a lot about physics, but But the reason that we're doing this is for people. So staff at our national laboratories, not just Fermi Lab, but a lot of other national laboratories will collaborate, but also university researchers, both faculty and students from universities around the country and around the world will come here to use this magnificent facility to make discoveries that will expand our knowledge of the universe. So while we look forward to that, it's important to take time and take stock now for what's been accomplished so far. It's interesting, and I'm very happy that this is occurring at the same time that 800 miles away at Fermi Lab, just this week, the Fermi Lab 2x2 prototype detector for DUNE has detected its first accelerator neutrinos. So it's really amazing that these two things are happening at the same time. So I think this is an exciting time, and it's exciting that we can be here. And then as soon as we're up on top, it's time to start anew and to start completing this facility and working with all you here. And so I really appreciate, and I couldn't be more happy than to be here with everybody who's here. So thank you very much. And now I'll turn things over to a co-spokesperson for the LBNF DUNE experiment, Sergio Bertolucci.
Thank you. Well, fortunately, most of the things have been said. I can concentrate on the covenant. It comes to my mind what a colleague of mine, Alvaro de Rúcula, who is a famous theorist, used just to say, he said during interviews, physicists are funny people. They build their cathedral underground. And as a matter of fact, this is a good example of that. And the metaphor is even better because this was a gold mine. So the physicists are building cathedral underground just to dig out the nowadays gold knowledge. Perfect. So next time I will tell Alvaro, we have just improved it. Come to do. It's fantastic just to be here today. I was part of the conception of this large thing some time ago, and seeing how this has progressed, how this community of thousands of people have contributed to that in a way in which essentially gives a message, which is a message of optimism of the future, which is one of the main messages that science needs just to give us, because science responds to our basic nature of humans. We are curious, we want just to explore and explore, and we are at the depth of the heart optimistic. Of course, if now I should start just to thank all the people involved in that, probably the ribbon cutting will go late in the afternoon, so I will not do it before. But I would like just to acknowledge the fact that it takes also another very important thing, which is important because we need there politicians, stakeholders, institutions, all come together, because fundamental research needs many things: vision, endurance, and patience. Because otherwise, you cannot go on the schedule when you are exploring the uncharted territories. This is an example. And I mean, a guy who was an ancient guy, who was running a pretty sophisticated and complex enterprise, which was called Roman Empire, Emperor Augusto, used just to tell to his generals, festina lente, which means hasten with calm. Just go fast, slowly. And this community is doing that right now. We have patience, we have endurance, and we want just to come back here for the next inauguration soon, but not sooner than needed, because we need just to do this in the right way. Thank you very much to everybody, to all the people who have contributed to this beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Now it's my pleasure to invite Francesco Lani, who is senior scientist at CERN and the project leader of the CERN Neutrino platform.
Thank you, Leah, for inviting us here at this event. This is a further testimony of a strong partnership, cemented partnership between Fermilab, DOE at large, and CERN. And of course, I'm honored to represent CERN at this event and celebrate the accomplishment of such an extraordinary milestones. Therefore, I start from the end. On behalf of all us at CERN, congratulations to you and to all the colleagues who have made this possible. In fact, it's marvelous. I don't know how to explain it. As you well know, let me make 3 remarks and try to be fast. The first, as you well know, CERN strongly supports the US long baseline neutrino program. Our commitment goes back to 2013. Sergio was one of the main actors there, when the neutrino platform was established in response to the recommendation of the European strategy to develop a program that paves the way for a substantial role of our colleagues in Europe in future long baseline experiments. And then the last update to that document, in fact, set a clear priority on the US collaborations with the US for a successful implementation of LBNF and DUNE. And this has been consolidated over several years, starting in 2015, the neutrino protocol, the amendments, and up to the recent project planning document signed last year, which defines the in-kind contribution of CERN for the LBNF project, which are namely the 2 cryostats, the storage tank for liquid argon on the surface, and part of the proximity cryogenics. In fact, even today, we are extending the scope of that document, and thanks to DOE and leveraging on the CERN expertise in 4 cryo system to deliver also part and the Argo condenser for via the Swiss contributions and DOE. This is important because for the first time in CERN history, as you said, CERN is contributing not only to the scientific programs and the detector construction of off-site experiments, but also to its infrastructure, which is a first. Second remark is that I want to remind briefly the pivotal role of the CERN neutrino platform for the DUNE experiment, because it allowed the validations of the technologies of the 2 far detector modules, which will be installed in this cover and in the next one. So our commitments to DUNE through the MOU signed last December, in fact, are today fully supported by the midterm plans, which cover the full strategy of the laboratory for the next 5 years. And the third remark, if you allow me, here we are to celebrate, of course, an extraordinary step forward, but not forget, we should expect, because it will happen, important and big challenges ahead of us to actually make this enterprise successful. And certainly those challenges will require the full engagement of all of us working together in planning and in executing this beautiful enterprise. So from our side, in fact, CERN is eager to prepare with you the next steps, which will be the installation of the cryostat next summer. I don't remember if it's this cover or the next, but we are planning to do it starting in July, scheduling around. So again, given the fact we are gathered here to celebrate, let me stop here and reiterate what I said at the beginning. Congratulations to all of you, DOE, Fermilab, SDSTA, SURF, and sorry if I forgot anybody, for this outstanding achievement. Thank you. And I pass to Antonio José de Almeida, rector of the University of Campinas in Brazil.
Thank you very much, Francesco. So, good afternoon. It's really a pleasure for me. I'm very glad to be here at the Sanford Underground Research Facility, representing the University of Campinas and the Brazilian delegation. As we all know, the Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment is the most ambitious and important mega science project in the coming years. And we from Brazil, from the University of Campinas, and from other university and research institutions in our country are connected to the purification of argon, liquid argon, and also providing the technology for detecting, part of the technology for detecting the neutrinos. As rector of the university, I'd like to thank to Fermi Lab in the person of Dr. Leah Merminga, and also to the Department of Energy in the person of Dr. Regina Rameica for providing this opportunity and helping us to take part in this amazing mega-size project. This project would for sure give us knowledge, data, information, in order to better understand the nature of matter and the origins and evolution of our universe. I am here together with Professor Luisa Moretti and Professor Pascoal Pagliuso, representing UNICAMP, but not only UNICAMP. There is a lot, several Brazilian universities and research institutions that are taking part in this consortium. And I would like to thank you in name of all those institutions also. And also, I would like to acknowledge and to recognize the importance of our funding agencies to provide the funds for our participation here. I would like to emphasize the importance of our State of São Paulo Research Agency, here represented by Professor Carlos Américo Pacheco, and also our fund for funding science and technology and innovation is from the federal government, from the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation that make this participation possible. And at the final, I would like to say that we are looking forward for the continuous collaboration with Fermi Lab and DOE within the DUNE project, and excited to have in our university, UNICAMP, so close to the Sirius synchrotron ring in Campinas, to have a hub for processing DUNE data and making them available for Brazilian and Latin American scientists. Thanks a lot for your attention and kindness. And I will turn to Leah again, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Tomze, also, and everyone else for coming, for being here today. So it is my pleasure now to invite Adam Baihari, who is the LBNF DUNE US Federal Project Director, to make some remarks.
Thank you, Leah. Well, great remarks by everyone. I don't want to repeat what others said. I work for the Department of Energy Fermi Site Office, so on behalf of our office, I want to thank everyone for coming down here to celebrate this achievement with us. I do really want to emphasize a point that some other folks made. I think you all understand the challenge of an accomplishment like this. We all came down a narrow shaft a mile underground to this place, to these amazing caverns, where Tyson mining industry removed over 800,000 tons of rock using over 1 million pounds of explosives and over 1 million man hours of work without a lost time incident. This is a remarkable achievement that has to be recognized. And that kind of thing doesn't happen by accident. That requires a lot of planning, a lot of discipline, diligence. It requires a safety conscious mindset and culture. Things go wrong at times. And when something unexpected happens, the stakeholders stop, they analyze it, they learn from it, understand how to prevent that from happening again. And so, of course, I think we have to recognize Tyson Mining Industry for their amazing performance and safety record here, and all the other parties that were responsible for that. Our construction manager, Kiewit Albarisi, the management and oversight of Fermi Lab, and of course, the support from the South Dakota Science and Technology Authority staff here. So thank you very much, and you all should give yourself a lot of credit for what you've accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And now the final speaker is Jim Kirby, our very new LBNF DUNE US Project Director.
Thank you, Leah. I'm still the incoming project director, so I'm not even new yet. A couple things I would like to say thank you. So this is spectacular. I've been building things for the Office of Science for some time, and I think ribbon cuttings are critical celebrations of steps, and it's the first step. I'd like to say thank you to somebody who hasn't been mentioned yet, and with apologies to everybody else. But Chris Mossy was the project director of LBNF DUNE for the past 8 years or so, and we wouldn't be here without him, in addition to all those other people. So thank you so much, Chris. And I got your cell phone number, so we'll be talking. I also know I am the last speaker, and I'm between us and the ribbon cutting, so I know my role. I'd like to pick up on something Francesco said. So we will get to the point where this mine, which was the most prolific gold mine in North America, if I understand correctly, becomes the most prolific data mine for neutrinos some years from now. And there's a bit in the middle here we need to do, which is to actually build this and fill these caverns. The echo will be a little bit less, I think. And there will be contributions from everybody around the world. And you've heard from a couple of representatives of that today. I look forward to that challenge. I know all of us look forward to that challenge, but I'd like to emphasize something, which is, if you think a little bit about this mine, it's amazing. I mean, it really is. I've been in an iron mine for other reasons, but this is a really spectacular facility that's built over decades. And it's not just the ingenuity and industry of people from around the world that's going to make this work. It's the ingenuity and the industry of the people here in South Dakota that are going to make it work too. And we've all got to pull this together. It's going to be a one-of-a-kind facility in the world that when we are done, we should all be able to go home and brag to our neighbors and our families that we had some small part in that. And we all will need to do it together. So I look forward to being a part of that team. I think everybody who's done the work to date, we need to deliver this for the science and the future of our children. We also need to do it in a rational way for taxpayers across the world who support all of us, and some special taxpayers, Mr. Sanford, who support us more than everybody else does. Thank you so much for your support and your vision. And let's get to work. Thanks very much.
All right, I guess we're going to stand up and cut a ribbon if all the speakers would come up, and Ray will direct us here.
I'll give these to you, but don't run with them.
Okay.
Can we pull this back just a wee bit?
Sure. Yeah, well. Please, guys,